My name is Christian Wright of MetaVALobbyist.com. I recently interviewed Mark Rubin, Executive Director of Government Relations at Virginia Commonwealth University. Mark talked about lobbying and how much time it takes to actually lobby at the Virginia General Assembly. If you ever had questions about lobbying, please watch this interview.
I have lobbied, except for one or two sessions, since 1979. There are a lot of different routes that people take. Some people, like I did, worked with lawyers or a law firm that have a government relations group as part of what they do, as part of the practice. When I started, lobbying was a part-time vocation. Now it's very much a full-time. So some people get into it as lawyers. Some people work for the legislature in some form, either for legislative services or as an aide to a legislator, and then they become lobbyists. They make a lot of contacts and people start to go hire them. Some people work in campaigns for legislators, and people get to know them and they turn that into a lobbying career. It varies considerably. And some people start in D.C., some people start at the state level, some people do things in local government and then end up at various places in doing that. So there's a lot of different routes there. My sense is, first of all, you have to be a very good listener. I think listening is a large part of what you do, and if you do it well, you learn an awful lot, and it helps create good relationships. I think you have to be a very good negotiator. Most of what you end up doing is negotiating various and sundry issues. You need to be a person who can, I think, appreciate the value of a good relationship, because a lot of this is relationship building with people, so communication skills, listening and speaking. I wouldn't call this a skill, but at least a character trait is you need to be a person of integrity and honesty, because all you have is your reputation. And so if you have a good reputation for honesty and integrity, people will deal with you. If not, they won't. And it becomes much more difficult to do your job. It doesn't hurt to be able to know how to write well, to be able to read a statute and understand what it says. Typically lawyers do that, although there are a number of people who are non-lawyers who are pretty good at it as well. So those are some of the characteristics, I would say. While the General Assembly meets, essentially you go talk to legislators in their offices. Well, I always start, you actually need to start way before the General Assembly on an issue. But as far as during the General Assembly itself, if you've done all your preparation work well, you would go visit with folks in their office. Hopefully you've already got your client, if you're representing a group, which typically it's usually more than one person. You'd have to have them organized to help out with the lobbying, and so you're sort of getting them engaged and involved. You testify, you attend committee meetings, you testify in committee meetings, draft talking points about bills, and leave those with folks as you go along. It's lobbying is to a very large extent a sales position. You have something that you're selling. Either you're trying to kill a bill because it causes some difficulty for your client, or you're trying to pass it to move the policy of the Commonwealth forward. But essentially it's selling, and selling is persuasion, and so that's what you do. Yeah, depends on the issue, depends on your client. If you are, what you'd like to do is to start as soon as the session's over, start thinking about what is it that you want to do. This is for offensive issues. You may hear about things that you're going to have to defend against early on. Typically you don't hear about those until the fall, usually at best. But if it's something that you're pushing, you need to spend a fair amount of time, first of all, making sure that you understand the merits of the issue, backwards and forwards, both sides, strengths, weaknesses. You need to be able to get yourself organized. A lot of time is spent going out to see legislators, not in their home districts. If you have folks in your association or group that you're representing who are constituents, you'd like for them to be getting involved with the person as well. You need to arm them with the facts and everything so that they can be persuasive. Sometimes issues are being studied by a governor's commission, legislative committee. She may well be involved with those. If you're pushing a bill, you need to draft it and figure out, exactly what you want to have in it and make sure it works. I like to meet with folks who I think will oppose the bill, see if there's something we can negotiate and see if we can get it to work out before going to the General Assembly. So there's a lot of things to do in that regard. There are less rules in many respects, and it depends on which, one piece is about raising money and spending money. Virginia is different. We don't have limitations on contributions. What we do have is a pretty strong disclosure rule where whatever it's up to $100. I think you don't have to disclose, but everything else you have to disclose what you've given. So those rules are, while they're not nearly as complex, I actually think in some respects they're more effective. In terms of registering, it's not a very complicated process. You only have to, you register and then you have to file a statement, another disclosure type statement of what you've done during the course of the year. So I haven't had to register as a federal lobbyist, so I can't really compare it, but my sense is that we have less rules. They're pretty straightforward here. I've been very fortunate in my career not to have that issue. Until I had this job, I've just been working for a university since August. But before that, I was in a law firm and I got to choose my clients in a sense. I mean, if somebody came to talk to me about something that I didn't feel I could lobby on, well, without having trouble to go to sleep at night, I didn't do it. So I had that opportunity to choose. But most things I didn't have really a problem. My rule is that if I can't articulate a solid public policy reason for something, I won't do it. And I've had people come and ask me for things that I just didn't think I didn't think there was any public policy reason for it, much less one I agree or disagreed with. So, but mostly I've been very fortunate so far here. I haven't had any real difficulties. There's some things that personally I might think, well, if I was the guy doing the voting, I might not vote this way. But, in general, they're not things that have tested my conscience or made me, like I said, not being able to sleep at night. Well, my experience essentially is Virginia. And Virginia, we're really, really fortunate. We have a very, very clean system. The number of situations that you even hear about are very, very few. And I've been doing this for 30-some years, so I've been around long enough to sort of see. And the people I know who lobby, and you get to know a fair number of them, it's a community, basically, I find generally to be very honorable people. So I don't put a lot of stock in that at all. I can't talk for how other folks do it and all, but I've never had I think it's a very honorable way to make a living. there is no question that money plays a significant role in elections, and that elected officials and people who want to run or look to groups that are interested in the system to raise money to support their elections. I always, and I think most everybody else, if we're going to have a PAC, a political action committee, and we're going to have money that's going to go into an election, that money is separated out from. You never walk into a legislator and say, "Here's a check for $10,000. I'm giving it for your election, and I have 3 issues that I really need your help on." You just don't do that. It's not right, and people don't do it. There's a clear distinction between it. I also believe that money does help create a good relationship. There's no question about it. If somebody asks you for support and you give them support, they look kindly upon you. No question about it. But a strong linkage, I think, I've had plenty of legislators who I've supported tell me no on issues. That's their job. It doesn't mean I hate them or don't still support them. It's just that on any given issue, they've, what's going on in their district or from how they think about things, their own perspective, they couldn't be supportive of it. That's the way it goes. I'll have another issue that I'll go ask them for support for that may well get them. Legislators are very interested in hearing from their constituents. So if you're going to bring a big group of people in here, you want them to go talk to their senator and their delegates. Legislators, that's who they represent. They would like to hear from them directly. I think the most effective time to talk to them is before the session, as opposed to during the session, because a lot of times it's really hard to find them. We have a very short session. They spend a lot of time in committees during the day, and so just bringing a group of people up here to go wandering around looking for them it can work, particularly if the person has developed a relationship with the legislator by coming every year or by meeting with them before they got there. That's the most effective way. But legislators take heed if there's 1,000 doctors up here or however many people they had in white coats walking around. They pay attention to the fact that that's a good-sized group of people. So yeah, you need to target it though. It's the most effective way is to target it.